Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and this is just a little quick update video on the ZX81 project, and more so on the case that I've decided to use for it. As you can see here, I decided to use that old OB truck rack case, and this is basically how it's going to look when I've finished it. Obviously I've not put the screen in there yet, and I'm not going to do that until I've painted the front here, because obviously I don't want to get paint on the nice screen. But I've basically got it all mocked up here and put together to actually give myself an idea what it's going to look like, and I'm actually really pleased with the end aesthetics of it. I mean, I want this as a functioning, working computer, but I want a certain aesthetic about it when it's actually finished as well. It's going to have that kind of early 80s military stroke clandestine spy James Bondy kind of look to it. But I do want a certain like 1980s look about it, which goes quite well with the fact that it's basically just going to be a ZX81. But what I thought I'd do is I'll get a keyboard out of the way, and I'll just take a little bit of this apart and show you basically what I've done so far. Obviously you've seen that I've made this front panel, but we'll get that off and you can have a quick look what I've got behind there and how I've put it together. I've got 4 screws to get the main part of the unit out. So let's just whiz these screws out quickly. And this is all hand cut, so I mean it's as accurate as I can do it hand cutting it all, and when it's together it doesn't look bad. I would have cut all this on my bandsaw, but I broke the blade on my bandsaw and I haven't had a chance to go and get a new one yet, so I had to cut this with a panel saw, which you can actually cut this stuff quite well with a panel saw, although it does destroy the saw in no time at all. Well, that's basically how I've cut all this out, and that I cut out with a Dremel. Again, it would have been far easier perhaps to do with a jigsaw or something like that, but I didn't have any fine enough blades for my jigsaw, so I did it with a Dremel. No, it took about half an hour. Right, there we go. And basically this comes out, and this, let me just quickly move that out of the way for now. Stand it up there. This is basically what's going to house the computer. So the whole idea is that for maintenance and for experimentation and what have you, you will be able to take this unit out. And where's my Zeddy? The plan is going to be that the Zeddy will mount, I'm not sure which way round yet, but basically the Zeddy is going to mount in here. Possibly like that, I'm not sure yet. The heatsink will probably be changed. In fact, it might even mount that way round. The heatsink will be probably removed and something else done as a heatsink that comes up the back there. We'll probably get more cooling in this thing. The reg might even stay on the ZX81 board. I'll go into the power supply in a minute, but I may even just bypass the reg on that and use a reg from the power supply and drive the ZX81 with 5 volts straight into it. Regulated 5 volts obviously, but that's one of the things I was thinking of, because it does actually have a where I can put a pin header there on the Zeddy board. I'll just stick it into macro so you can actually see this a little bit better. But if you look right down there, you can actually see there is a place for 3 pins. One's for 9 volt DC in, but the other you can actually feed it 5 volts straight in. So I may think about doing it that way instead. But as you can see, there's plenty of room actually inside the case here for no matter which way I actually end. Yeah, I probably will end up doing it that way, and that gives me more access to the expansion port, and this can be right against this back wall, so it'll basically be like that in the back of the thing, and then I've got plenty of room for the expansion port there, and I'll obviously be able to get to everything else that I need to get to. Next thing I need to do is run some rails, insulated rails. I'll probably make them out of plastic, that are going to run across there to actually take the board and support the board So it'll probably be more centre mounted at the base, like that kind of idea, like that. So I've got plenty of room around it to add other different things, different bits and bats. I've got access to the expansion there. So the heatsink won't be an issue if I drive it with straight 5 volts in. And we can get rid of that little heatsink there. Obviously we're going to heatsink the ULA. We'll probably heatsink the ZX is not as big an issue, but we'll definitely heatsink the ULA. Although I will say, actually it's not I shouldn't really say this, but these aren't quite as fragile as I don't think people think. I actually forgot about this, and this has been powered up non-stop for since I made my last video, so that's what, 2 or 3 days sat on, actually powered up in the workshop. And when I come up here to make this video, I'd switched off the monitor, but I'd actually forgotten to switch off the ZX81, and when I switched the monitor back on, obviously it come on and it was still running fine. I cleared it, I run a basic program on it, and it actually, well, you know, a simple basic program, and it actually run absolutely fine. Even the ULA wasn't that hot. It's probably due to the fact that without my heater on in this workshop at the moment, it's either 1 degree or 0 degrees, so that probably helped its cooling. So anyway, that's what I've made up to now to actually carry the computer itself. And the next thing I will just show you is how we're going to power it. If you can see in the back of there, we've got a power supply. I'm going to, obviously I've not added all the rest of the bits. I was considering adding a fan to this. If I do add a fan, it'll probably be on the top here, so it just blows heat out. It's not probably 100% necessary, but I may add a fan there. I was planning on adding it on the back, but with the power supply that I've used, I don't actually have enough room for it. I'll just whip this back off, and then you can have a quick look at the power supply I'm planning to use for this and why I've picked it. There's only 2 screws in this for now, so it won't take a sec just to whip the back off. Again, I'm using things that I've got in here, so like this power supply is one that I've salvaged out of a piece of redundant equipment. It's one I salvaged bits off for quite some time. Let's take that out. We can get this out of the way. I can put that where it's going to be okay. And here we are. This is basically, this is the power supply that we're going to use for the project. I will be mounting an IEC input on the back here and a switch. I'll probably try and I'll get one with a an inbuilt fuse, I think. Well, unless this has got, this does have fuse protection on it, so it's not actually that needed. But I might, if I've got one, I'll use one with an inbuilt fuse and then a switch above it. Obviously, we're going to need a little bit of space on the back here for things like the keyboard connector and any other external outputs that I want to put on the rear panel. It does take up a fair bit of space, this power supply, but it is it's more than adequate for the whole project. It's a switch mode power supply. It produces 12 volts at 4.5 amps. Now, bearing in mind that the screen pulls about 700 milliamps, the ZX81 pulls about, what, 600, 700 milliamps, so it's hardly going to be stressed, this thing, and it means that we've got plenty of power in reserve for any expansion that we want to do in the future. So what I'll probably do is pull the 12 volts off here and then use a large heatsink, possibly mount a heatsink on the back of here with some regulators. Obviously we need a 8 volt regulator for the LCD panel, and obviously we'll need a 5 volt regulator for the ZX81, but there's plenty of room here to put a nice big efficient heatsink and mount the regs that we need on there, and then power that from the additional power board, which is going to be, so basically without the computer this sits like that. So there's plenty of room. Like I said, we could possibly have a fan bringing some air out. I don't think that's really going to be necessary. It's quite a nice efficient power supply, this. I believe it's out of a piece of Sony AV equipment. It was a big video switcher, like a 30 channel video switcher, which I salvaged from work for various bits and bats I've robbed off it over the years. And I always kept the power supply, thinking I know that's going to come in useful for a project one day. And this is the perfect project to use something like that in, because like I say, it's a good substantial power supply. So basically that's where we're up to. That's what it's going to look like inside, with our ZD and all the electronics in there. Then we've got our power section behind it. So I thought I would do that video, show you where we're up to with this project. So I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I say, it was just a quick little update video, show you quite where we're up to with this. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.